Ron Paul has now said he believes he's been cheated in Louisiana, where people were saying he won first place, but then magically he got second place. When he got second place in Nevada, they just on national news didn't show it and said McCain won second place. Just mass fraud in your face, all documented. Then out in New Hampshire, where this all started, where a recount was funded by you, the listeners, predominantly of this show, supporting the Granny Warriors and others, with a Republican candidate who did go for it. Ron Paul got really attacked by his supporters for not doing this. Now he is stepping up in Louisiana. So much is happening. And Bev Harris, who, of course, written the book on black box voting, consulted and helped make the film, Hacking Democracy for HBO, critically acclaimed. People then, when the Democrats got in 2006, thought that magically everything was okay with the machine. She pointed out, no, both parties are working for the same people. There was evidence of fraud there. Folks she fingered in Ohio for being in fraud in 2004 have gone to prison. She's been in New Hampshire for the last couple weeks. She's been there documenting all this. We got some audio from some video of them not securing ballots. We're going to play in a moment. Here to give us her on-the-ground analysis is Bev Harris of blackboxvoting.org. Bev, thank you for coming on with us. You've got the floor. Give us the whole saga report, not just the latest, what you witnessed there.
It was shocking. What we wanted to see, and, after I found that Albert Howard, the candidate that you guys largely funded completely, I think, funded his recount, I knew that somebody needed to get to New Hampshire and protect or find out what they're doing with chain of custody of the ballots. Because remember, New Hampshire had the memory cards for 81% of its votes counted by this one company. We found the guy was a convicted felon who was involved in that. And so if there was any funny business with those voting machines, and they're bringing all the ballots in to recount them by hand for this candidate, Albert Howard, then I was very concerned that there would be ballot substitution on the way in. That's why I wanted to see what the chain of custody was all about.
In fact, you fingered exactly the weak point where the pipe narrowed.
Right. And I tell you, this was the Friday, a couple of weeks ago, Friday, and I literally don't like to travel very much, and I just knew it was haunting me. It's like, I've got to get there. I literally hopped on a red eye, flew overnight, forgot my coat for New Hampshire in the winter, which wasn't a great idea. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm sitting there thinking, what am I thinking? I'm charging off to New Hampshire in the middle of the night by myself without a coat. What do I expect to find? How the heck am I going to find anything? But I got on the ground on a Saturday morning, and I contacted some of the best and most innovative citizens who've really sprung up in the last 4 years to start to investigate elections in their own areas. One of them is in the film, Hacking Democracy, Susan Pinchon. She's the woman that cries at the end of the film. She's a great investigator. I also brought in Patty Schaefer, who helped to uncover the Ohio recount sham, and I brought in Melissa Erda, who's from the West Chicago area. She's in
Now, I have to say, some of the Ron Paul folks who are great people but weren't sophisticated in this manner, don't understand the technical ways they steal. They got mad and said, Bev's being aggressive, Bev's getting in their face, she's got this group of attack dogs with her. No, it's because you're a dog that will hunt, you know what you're doing, and unfortunately some of the other folks don't understand that these smiling devils will smile at you, and I heard you got pretty mad at some people.
Well, I really didn't get mad. What they sometimes see as aggressive is follow-up questions. What it is you'll ask them a question and they'll completely answer something different and give you some long-winded, non-responsive answer. And you have to keep coming back with some of these public officials to the same question, the same question, the same question, in order to show that they're either going to answer it or not answer it. So, that we have this culture of we should always be deferential and we should always bow to authority. But the fact is,
well, they don't roll over when a SWAT team busts your house at 3 a.m.
Right. Well, if you ask a public official a question and they don't answer it, then you have a right to ask a follow-up question. So the problem was that we either were not getting answers or we were getting bizarre answers. One of the first things that happened is Patty Schaefer from the Ohio Election Justice Campaign, very experienced in this kind of thing.
We've sent people to prison.
Well, that was Kathleen Wynn's video. There's a few people on the ground here. But she has done some amazing work in Ohio. And she questioned the Secretary of State of New Hampshire and said, where are your memory cards, which are the cards that hold the votes, which are what was programmed by this company. And, you know, he hemmed and hawed, and she had to keep asking him over and over. Ultimately, he admitted he didn't know where they were. Now, I'm talking, this is days after the election. Just days after the election.
And the number 2 guy in the company's already been caught in Connecticut in what the state called criminal, running around during an election with a trunk full of memory cards, the convicted narcotics trafficker.
Right. So, you know, what happened next was a lawyer for a citizens voting rights group called Voter Action, John Boniface, came in, and he cross-examined both the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, who claimed then that they didn't need to secure the memory cards. So yeah, people got, and also there were some people who planted some stuff that never happened, where they would say, well, Bev Harris, you know, put Albert Howard's phone number on the internet. That never happened. I would never do that in a million years, you know. But so there was a little bit of disinformation out there. But we did do follow-up questions and pin them down as to what they were doing with chain of custody, and it was very fruitful. For example, one of the things that happened is, and we had ultimately about 6 or 7, mostly middle-aged women there who were very experienced in kind of wrestling with the government. There's a person named Sally Castleman who was there from the Election Defense Alliance, another voting rights group. She followed the ballots back to the vault where they were keeping them overnight. They made this big deal. They brought in the news channel and said, look at this, we keep them in the vault. It's so secure. Well, she got back there and she noticed there were slits in the boxes. Now, these are boxes of votes that have not been counted yet. So she noticed that most of them had slits in the end.
The slits are open by law. They're supposed to be sealed.
They're supposed to be sealed, correct. So I went in the next day, and today I'll be uploading a video on YouTube, and you can just go to, you know, Black Box Voting and see all our videos on YouTube. But I'll be uploading something there today that shows this very clearly. I then, the next day, came in and asked the Assistant Secretary of State, David Scanlon, who's really running the show there, by the way, you know, what about that slit in the end of the box? And he does this kind of OJ tries on the glove demonstration where he's like, oh, he tries to barely slide a pin into it and shows it. Well, then Susan Pinchon from the Florida Fair Elections Coalition sticks her whole hand in. It was really quite humorous, and you'll see that clip on YouTube later this afternoon, where you have the Secretary of State saying, you can't get into the side slit, you know, and making it look really hard, and then Susan Pinchon just sticking her hand in. So we knew that this slit wasn't secure. Well, then they said, you don't need to worry about the slits on the side because we have this tape that seals the top of the box. And they point that out.
And it's a special kind of sticker that goes on and comes right off without tearing. And I know about bumper stickers.
Yes. Yeah, it's Post-it note, basically. And, yeah, but they point to this. They don't tell us that, and they won't let anyone touch the box. And I say, this is what really seals it, this white label. That's our special Secretary of State tape. So on videotape again, and you see this in the video I'll upload this afternoon, I actually kind of quietly, hoping they wouldn't notice, just peeled some up, and you could see that it comes right off the box. Comes off a cardboard box, doesn't leave any mark.
You put it on and off over and over again. It's the type of sign.
Well, actually, there was a couple of demonstrations. First, I just took one that the actual, from a real ballot box that had been sealed by the town clerk and just gently peeled it up about 2 inches. And then they told me quickly to stop touching the box, and I did. Well, then I asked these various officials, what about this tape? Would you let us see a new piece? Would you show us this, whether it adheres? Of course, none of them would. And then we actually did put a piece of tape on the box, rip it off repeatedly. It's a Post-it note. You can put it on and off, on and off.
And by the way, they all were acting like cats who'd been caught in the cartoon with a canary feather sticking out of their mouths.
Oh, yeah. And then it got even, what we did next is I wanted to see, okay, then in the vault they have these slits, they've got this removable Post-it stuff on the top claiming it's a seal. It's a sham. So what is the condition? Now you've got this, supposedly the state police driving all over the state, picking up the ballots from the town to bring them into the Secretary of State. Well, I wanted to see. Well, it wasn't the state police, it turns out. It was two guys named Butch and Hoppy.